The Denver Broncos and Bo Nix do it again. Another fourth quarter comeback. We'll break it all down here on today's episode. Locked on Broncos.
You are Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Denver Broncos continue to climb the ladder inside the AFC after another comeback victory on Sunday to improve their record to 7-2. Welcome into another episode of Locked On Broncos, your daily Broncos podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Cody Roark, Broncos reporter for Mile High Sports. Want to give a special shout out to all the everydayers out there in Broncos Country. Thanks for tuning in and making us your first listen, however you choose to do that. Another Victory Monday here and another fourth quarter comeback here. On today's episode of the show, we're going to go through how the Broncos came back from a 15-7 deficit going into the fourth quarter, led by Bo Nix, making some clutch plays when it mattered, despite some of his struggles. We'll also talk about the Broncos offense overcoming some of the allergies that they had through 3.5 quarters of play, but we're going to mainly highlight how good the Broncos defense was in today's win. And on top of that, we're going to give every single one of those guys a game ball as we close out the show later on today. On today's show, brought to you by our friends over there at FanDuel. And right now, new customers, they can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets that you can use all throughout the entire app here. How about those Broncos? It wasn't quite the 33-point comeback we saw against the New York Giants, but it was an 11-point fourth quarter that helped the Broncos improve to 7-2 behind Will Lutz's game-winning field goal here. And the Broncos firmly in control of their destiny here inside of the AFC and inside the AFC West with a Thursday night football game coming up. This was an important game for the Broncos to go on the road and find a way to win. And it wasn't pretty. And we knew coming into this game, the Broncos offense, they were facing the best defense in the NFL in terms of yards allowed per game. They were a top 5 defense against the run, against the pass, and they were also the NFL's best scoring defense, limiting opponents to 14.7 points per game. So when the Broncos fell down into a hole here, 15-7, it definitely felt like one of those games, especially going into the fourth quarter, where can the Broncos find a way to come back again? Or are the Houston Texans, is that playing into the strength of what they want, where they're going to keep everything in front of them and then try to generate takeaways? And they almost did, especially in that fourth quarter. But Bo Nix and the offense, they found a way to come back here, and they had an impressive drive. Look, it wasn't pretty for Bo Nix throughout this entire game. But I will say this, we'll talk about the Broncos offense and Nix's struggles specifically here in our next segment. But I think we have to talk about the clutch gene here of Bo Nix. Look, when the Broncos seemingly find themselves with their back against the wall, odds stacked against them, needing big plays, Bo Nix does come up. It doesn't matter how he's played before throughout the entire course of the game. It's when you need a big play, Bo's going to do just that. And for example, look, in that fourth quarter, he finds R.J. Harvey for the touchdown. And that touchdown obviously cut the Broncos deficit from 15-13. Then you had to go for a 2-point conversion. Bo throws a beautiful throw a little bit high there where it needed to be because the defender was trailing underneath to Troy Franklin to tie the game up at 15. Okay, clutch factor. Okay, now everything's a little even here, especially based on the trend of what the Broncos defense was doing all game long to the C.J. Stroud-less Houston Texans. Yes, obviously, for those that didn't watch the game, C.J. Stroud went out in the first quarter with a concussion after taking a shot from Chris Abrams, drained a clean shot to the chest where he slid late. That was simply on Stroud there. Unfortunately, we hope he's going to be okay, but it doesn't matter who's out there. The Broncos did not have Patrick Surtain. Davis Mills stepped into the equation there for them, and the Broncos defense still did their job, despite the Texans getting back Nico Collins and Christian Kirk and having Dalton Schultz available for this game here. So we'll talk about the Denver defense here in a little bit. But for Bo, and we talk about that clutch gene, fourth quarter, it's 3rd and 11, right before the 2-minute warning. You just have a couple of plays in a row where you're going backwards, negative plays, and you need a big play. Bo delivered an absolute strike to Pat Bryant across the middle of the field to move the chains going into, obviously, that 2-minute warning. That was a clutch play there from Bo. And then, obviously, when Denver's defense did their job and Denver had a chance with 50 seconds left to go out and win this game, Bo Nix turns on the Jets with his legs, 25-yard scamper, and then a 9-yard scamper to set up Will Lutz's game-winning field goal. Bo finds a way to win, even if he hasn't had the best performance. I think the one thing we want to ask for from Bo is more consistency as a QB. And there's certainly layers to that conversation, which we'll have here in just a little bit. But I felt like Bo's clutch gene, once again, comes up big when the Broncos need it against the best defense in the NFL in a lot of major categories here. Denver needed this one. You couldn't have afforded a letdown and then going into a Thursday night matchup against the Raiders. That simply would have not been good for the Broncos here. But let's talk about that defense really setting the tone from this game. We talk about, obviously, C.J. Stroud going down. Denver found a way to just turn on defensively when it mattered. And I'm talking about big-time situations where there were a couple of plays that allowed the Texans to get down into scoring range. But then you have two goal line stands on back-to-back series, and the Broncos defense led by Dre Greenlaw comes up big. You talk about one play, there was a handoff to Woody Marks. Dre Greenlaw sticks him on first down, and then the Broncos defense does the rest on the next two downs, stifling them for a run. Then they force a penalty on the Houston Texans, and it backs them up. Two goal line stands here led by this Denver defense. That just kind of set the energy for the day, saying, you know what, this defense is going to maintain their stance as the best red zone defense in the NFL. They were that. But they also were the best third down defense coming into today's game as well. And they held the Texans offense to 3 of 17 in that department. And there were several third and long situations, certainly, that they forced, but there were a lot of third and short situations as well. And the Broncos defense just found a way to buckle down. Pressure being generated left and right. Zach Allen having a terrific game here for Denver. I just felt like the Broncos, once again, in this game, the defense specifically, I'll say, overcame the adversity of really bad offensive efficiency throughout the entire 4 quarters. There were moments of it. Special teams didn't have any bright spots outside of one guy, and that was your punter. We'll talk about that later. But the Broncos overcame a lot on the road in a game that they very well could have easily lost when things kind of got out of hand. You find yourself down 15-7, nothing's going right for you. You find a way to just dig your heels in and say, look, we've got to make a move here. The Broncos offense found a way to do that, led by Bo Nix, fueled by the Broncos defense. If you know who David Goggins is, one of the things he always says is, who's going to carry the boat, son? Well, the Broncos defense carried the boats, and then Bo Nix got them into where they needed to be, obviously, late in this game. Broncos win 18-15 here to avoid overtime, improve to 7-2, setting things up with a Thursday night football matchup here as well. Once again, this was a gutsy performance by the Broncos because for a large portion of this game, it wasn't pretty. But, man, you have to find a way to win these types of games. And how often throughout the last 5-6 years of you all joining me here on this show, how many post-game shows have we done where, man, at the Broncos, they just got to find a way to win these ugly games. They're finding ways to do it, and certainly there are plenty of gripes. There are plenty of things that are not where they need to be here, certainly on offense, certainly on special teams. We're not worried about the defense over here. We'll talk about that, I think, a little bit more in depth on tomorrow's show when we take a look at the state of the AFC West, and some of the other issues that we saw after we have a chance to go back and fully watch this tape from Sunday's game. But the number one thing that matters here in the National Football League in the regular season, getting dubs. Doing that, improving to 7-2, and for the Broncos, winning an AFC game that puts their conference record right now at 4-2. That is important. We talked about that in the build-up to this game, leading up to kickoff, that was so important here for this Broncos team to take advantage of, because you have other teams behind you that are creeping up inside the division, inside the conference. You can't afford a letdown. The Broncos avoided the letdown by coming back. 11 points scored here in the fourth quarter. And once again, Bo Nix coming up big when you needed him most in certain situations here. But still, plenty of concern about Bo in the offense, which we'll highlight here as the Broncos found a way to overcome some allergies in this game late against the Houston Texans. We'll highlight that more here on today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com. Today's episode of the show is also brought to you by our friends over there at Supply House. And when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keeps you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered, like Garrett Bowles for Bo Nix. If you need parts faster for a project, Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. The Broncos offense was allergic to running the football for a large portion of this game when it was working, but Sean Payton, Bo Nix, and the offense found a way late against the Houston Texans. But it doesn't cover some of the warts here that this offense certainly has, as they now improve to 7-2 with plenty of room to improve here. Broncos Country, once again, thank you so much for joining us, making us your first listen every single day. Just want to drop a little special announcement for you here beginning on Tuesday. You're going to get the Broncos Squad Show. You're going to get myself, Sayre Bedinger, Anilo Piero, who does the Locked On Broncos postcast, and you're going to get former Broncos safety Nick Ferguson, my good friend. You're going to join us for a Broncos Squad Show here to bring Broncos Country even more exclusive content here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Stay in line for that here. Let's talk about the Broncos offense, and certainly Broncos Country. Make sure you chime in on this. You can email me, reach out on social media to let us know your thoughts here on the Broncos offensive struggles for 3.5 quarters and various parts of the fourth quarter, including some clutch situations. Like when the Broncos needed a big play, there were a couple of drives where they didn't come up with that play here against what we talked about in the buildup to this, the best scoring defense and obviously a top 5 unit against the run and against the pass here with some talented playmakers there in Houston. Shout out to them. That defense is very good. And if that offense could play better, they might be a real scary threat inside the AFC. So a tip of the hat to the Texans defense. They made things very difficult for Bo Nix and the offense. But I will also say this, the Broncos offense, Nix included, and Sean Payton made things very difficult for themselves at times. This was not Bo Nix's best game. I would say that this was probably the second worst efficient game that Bo Nix has had in his career, just from a consistency standpoint here. 18 of 37 for 173 yards. Yes, he had the 2 touchdowns, which are super important. That's what helped them come back and obviously win this game. An interception, but just some up and down play here from Bo, where at times it's the issues that we talked about that we saw early on in the season, where Bo is running himself up in the pocket into pressure. Third down efficiency wasn't great for the Broncos in this game. They finished 6 of 15. They had some plays late that obviously they converted that improved that percentage there, but it was trending towards being very similar to the Houston Texans, who finished 3 of 17 on third down here. But for Bo, we talk about some of the mistakes that he made in this game, missing wide open guys. Evan Ingram down the left sideline on one play that he was wide open, would have had a touchdown. That stuff is frustrating. But on the very next play, he throws a touchdown pass to Cortland Sutton against Derek Stingley Jr. And so it's like, all right, you're going to live with the good. You're going to live with the bad. I think the number one thing that Broncos Country wants to know, and certainly there are some detractors there, Bo Nix didn't play great enough for the Broncos here today. And I think there's valid criticism of Bo's play this season. And look, I know this is a victory podcast here. We have to talk about the good with the bad as well. Bo did things to help the Broncos win, including the clutch 25-yard run, the 9-yard run that set up Will Lutz's touchdown. That 3rd and 11 throw that he had to Pat Bryant should have been enough for the Broncos to go out there and win this game. Sean Payton, on the other hand, had some moments in this game where it seemed like, hey, we're coaching to lose this. And what I'm talking about specifically is after Bo found Pat Bryant on 3rd down, right before the 2-minute warning for a first down, the Broncos, instead of running the football and draining some more time off of the clock, they have a couple of pass plays there and 2 straight pressures that force Bo Nix to have to throw the football away. One of them, he runs to the right side, which this is honestly kind of poetic as we're talking about it as the show was going here. It forces Bo to scramble to the right side, throw the football away. There's one play where you obviously have a missed pickup by RJ Harvey. Apparently, that's what the broadcast was saying. But it looked like RJ was wide open on the left side on a potential wheel route. But Bo ran to the right side because pressure came inside the A gap. And so that was one of those ones where it forced Bo away from maybe where he was supposed to be going there. And then he had to throw it away. So now you have to punt the football away and hope that your defense continues their trend of getting stops, which luckily they did. And that gave the Broncos the ball back with 50 seconds. I think what was poetic about all of that on those two plays where Bo had to throw it away, it showed him rolling out to the right, escaping pressure. This sets up the 25-yard run there. And certainly it was the same exact look. Bo gets it. He runs, pressure gets upfield. Now he dips up underneath and runs for 25 yards. That clutch factor there, like Bo can use his legs, and I think he needs to use his legs even more if the Broncos are going to sustain certain drives. Certainly there was one drive where the Broncos threw the football. Bo had a lane to run it where it would have picked up a first down. He throws it. It falls incomplete to Courtland Sutton. So just too inconsistent here. And my main gripe here about the offense, folks, and I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to be realistic because this is super important. Bo Nix didn't play great enough for a large portion of this game, but he came up big when you needed him to. He had the clutch gene. He made the plays when you needed to in that fourth quarter. That's what I'm talking about. Is like that's stuff that you can live with. But Sean Payton certainly can help him out here because the run game, the Broncos at halftime, they only had 6 carries. J.K. Dobbins had 4 carries, and his first 3 runs of the game on that first offensive series that Denver had, they were good runs. There was good flow and rhythm. J.K. was averaging over 5-something yards per carry at that point, and then the Broncos went away from it for a remainder of the game. And Houston in the first half dominated the time of possession. I believe it was 22 minutes to 7 there. So Denver, they got a little pass happy, and it certainly took time off the board for them and gave more time essentially to the Houston Texans. That to me is where things get frustrating. And then obviously in that one drive after Pat catches that touch, throw the ball 3 straight times, and then you bleed off maybe 15 total seconds. You have two of them where they're incomplete. That right there is going to lose you a game at some point here. The Broncos and Sean Payton were essentially playing with fire here. That is my gripe. That is my thing. The run game at times was working for them here in this game. As I talked about, J.K. Dobbins ended up finishing this game with 15 carries for 61 yards. The Broncos finished collectively as a team with 100 yards rushing, but there was a lot of meat left on the bone of this game in the run game that the Broncos should have went to that they didn't. And Bo has to just be more consistent in the pocket, especially even on the run at times as well. He's trying some no-look passes. At times, try it. I'm not opposed to it, but when you're needing big plays to happen, you can't do that in crucial moments. He threw an interception, obviously, on a pass to Courtland Sutton early on. That was intended for him. He threw it high, and it was inside. It allowed the safety to come over there. Derek Stingley nearly had a pick, but luckily Pat Bryant came out and was able to kind of force the ball to his hands to be able to force an incompletion in that regard. I'm saying that this Broncos offense, folks, is not playing their best football right now, and yet they're playing clutch, and they're finding ways to win when it's necessary. But how long can you sustain this, right? My plea, and I think Broncos Country's plea, please let me know if I'm wrong. Make sure you comment it here on the show. The run game is the key to this team being successful, being scary, and being a legitimate threat inside the AFC. We opened up the show asking, are the Broncos at 7-2 now legit contenders in the AFC? I think that they are, but they aren't playing like it offensively. And that, if they can find a way to get to that juncture, they will be very, very scary here, folks, and they will be a legitimate contender for the Super Bowl inside the AFC. They'll be legitimate AFC contenders for the conference, AFC West contenders for the division here. This win gives them some cushion here. But now you have a short week turnaround to face the Las Vegas Raiders on Thursday Night Football, another AFC game and a divisional game too at that. And that sets up a matchup ultimately with the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes here in just a couple of weeks before Denver has their bye week. A big opportunity is in front of them here, and they're going to have to find a way to overcome some of these issues on offense and special teams if they're going to do just that here. But Broncos Country, make sure you share your thoughts here on the Broncos offense, your thoughts on Bo Nix and his performance, Sean Payton, the play calling at times. What do you think the real issue is here for Denver? Make sure you let us know in today's Lockdown Broncos post-game report here. But coming up next, we're going to hand out some game balls. Anytime there's a victory, you know what? People are going to get game balls. We're going to hand out highlight performers in Sunday's game against the Houston Texans here on today's episode, Lockdown Broncos. Today's postgame show was brought to you by our friends over there at FanDuel. The NBA is back right now, folks, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or if you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel, they have live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. We all love that. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. From three-pointers, slam dunks, you name it, FanDuel, they've got it. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over there at Doer. And I've got a pair of Doer jeans that are coming my way. And I'm excited because I've heard nothing but rave reviews from people that have them, because I hear amazing things about them, like the fact that they have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. Plus, they're antibacterial, meaning that your jeans, they stay fresher for longer so you can wear more and you can wash less. And on top of that, they have CoolMax technology that regulates your body temperature, and wicks moisture, which keeps you cool and comfortable as the temperatures change. And Doer jeans, they feel stretchy without looking stretchy. And that's a big thing for me. They combine classic jeans wear style with the kind of comfort and performance that you get from athletic wear. So you get the best of both worlds. They're designed to look great and stay comfortable all day long, no matter what you're doing. Doer are pioneers of blending technical innovation with everyday clothing. They invented the original performance denim. Simply put, Doer makes the world's most comfortable pants without having to sacrifice style. Trust me, once you try these, they will be your go-to, and you can check out Doer in store here in Denver. It's at 2621 Larimer Street. Pick up a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift for somebody else, and mention my promo code LOCKEDONDenver in store to get 15% off your first order. Or check them out online at shopduer.com/LockedOnDenver for 15% off. That's shopduer.com/LockedOnDenver. The fourth quarter is here, so you know what that means. Everybody gets a game ball that contributed to the Broncos' big-time win, 18-15, over the Houston Texans on the road in hostile territory. Denver now at 7-2, firmly in control of their destiny. We'll break all that down real quick. I want to say thank you once again to the everydayers out there in Broncos Country. Thanks for tuning in, making us your first listen every single day. If you're a brand new viewer or listener, hey, you love the show, you love the conversation, hit the subscribe or that follow button so you never miss out on what's going on with your favorite team every day, all year long. My favorite thing to do in a victory is to hand out game balls. And unfortunately, my good friend Sayre is not going to be here this week. He and his family are at Disney World, so he's having a good time. He gets a game ball for obviously being the best dad out there in the world. But you know what? We're going to hold down the fort for him here this week on Locked On Broncos. And he texted me somebody to give a game ball to, and he said, give it to Pat Bryant. And I already knew exactly when he said that what he meant. Pat Bryant coming up big in the fourth quarter for the Broncos on 3rd and 11. That catch that he had across the middle from Bo Nix was big. He also had a catch early on in the game, too, on a slant pattern where he caught it, was short of the first down, fought for the extra yards, and he got it. Pat, I tell you what, he does so much. As my wife likes to say when we do our What the Football show, she always gives him the heart award because this guy plays with heart. He plays with great energy. He's selfless. He does all the dirty work, and it's nice to see him get rewarded. Obviously, last week he was coming off a touchdown grab, his first career touchdown in the NFL. This week, he helps set things up and helps the Broncos win yet another game with a clutch catch on 3rd and 11. And I agree with that as a game ball option here, courtesy of Sayre. I'm going to give one to the entire Broncos defense. Folks, I think regardless of the situation of C.J. Stroud going out in this game, the Broncos defense, they had no Pat Surtain. P.J. Locke was a key rotational guy for the Broncos at safety and has come up big at times for Denver. He was not playing in this game. So the Broncos were down a couple of key guys on both sides of the ball here. But no Pat Surtain, no problem in this game as the Broncos defense, they stymie that Houston Texans offense, holding them to 3 of 17 on 3rd down. We talked about the 2 goal line stands they had early on in this game, led by Dre Greenlaw, who saw an uptick in overall snaps, including being on the field late in the fourth quarter in some clutch time situations. The Broncos defense, Talanoa Hufanga, these guys played with their hair on fire, and 4 sacks in this game to extend their league lead to 40 from 36. Now, 40 sacks through 9 games, that's pretty dang impressive. And the Broncos ramp that pressure up. The entire defense is going to get a game ball. from my perspective. And yes, Bo Nix is going to get one, even though he struggled in this game. I'm going to hand him one for obviously his 2-touchdown performance, including helping the Broncos win this game with his 25-yard run and his 9-yard run, respectively, in the final minute of the fourth quarter to set up the game-winning field goal to help the Broncos go to 7-2. Bo can play much better, but without Bo's production in key moments, the Broncos, they don't win this game. So he's going to get a game ball for this as well. And we're going to give somebody that he threw a touchdown to a game ball as well. RJ Harvey continuing to evolve in that J-word role that obviously Broncos country is tired of hearing about. We're seeing RJ Harvey get his Joker wings here. Another receiving touchdown for him at this juncture, including obviously cutting the deficit for the Broncos to 13-15. He came up big. The Broncos needed that play, and luckily he hauled it in. And then right after that, Troy Franklin catches a 2-point conversion. So we're going to give Troy a game ball, and we're going to hand one out on the special team side here, Broncos country. Even though that special teams was the eyesore here for them, and including the offense at times, there was one bright spot here for the Broncos on special teams, and that was Jeremy Crawshaw. Unfortunately, he was on the field too much. 8 punts in this game here, but he had a 76-yard punt. That was an absolute boomer here in this matchup inside of a dome. You love to see that from Jeremy, to see that he has the advantage to be able to do that. But he averaged 53.5 yards per punt in this game. It's not always great when you highlight a punter, but in a win, you got to highlight the fact that he did a lot to help the Broncos with their field position battle, made the defense's job a lot easier. That right there, Jeremy Crawshaw played complimentary football here to the Broncos defense on Sunday. He's going to get the game ball here. But with that said, Broncos country, make sure you hand us your game ball recipients following today's win, 18-15 for the Broncos to improve to 7-2. We still have a lot to talk about this week for the Broncos as the sights have now shifted to the Las Vegas Raiders. But before we get to Vegas, tomorrow's episode of the show, we're going to take a look at the state of the AFC West here for this Broncos team, and Sean Payton acknowledging that the Broncos have to clean up their special teams issues, or else he's going to find somebody that can clean them up for them. We'll highlight that and more on tomorrow's Locked On Broncos. We'll see you then.